This is just a warning that this speech might make you cry. I've been holding this in for so long and I just can't hold it in anymore. And this one's different. This isn't about the earth. This is about you. And if anything I say today resonates, and I think it will, make sure the people in your life hear it too. Because I can almost guarantee that they won't see it on their own. This is about the shape of your identity. And how the same system that lied to you about one lied to you about the other. I've spent an entire series showing you how a narrative gets constructed, how you take a population, control what they're told about reality, and then watch them defend a false reality with everything they have, because they've been made to believe it's who they are. And I want to show you that the same thing was done to people, specific people, with extraordinary precision. And I want to start by saying that this might seem small, but it actually matters. I have never seen a black person in my life, and I've never seen a white person either. What I've seen is every shade of brown imaginable, skin that carries more or less melanin, a pigment, a biological reality, something that exists on a spectrum so wide and so varied that reducing it to 2 words, black and white, tells you immediately that somebody chose those words deliberately. You don't accidentally create a binary out of a spectrum. You do it because a binary is easier to control than a spectrum. They call it black and white because black and white are opposites. They needed you to see opposites when you looked at each other. I'll give you one example of what I've actually observed. I spent time with melanated people in environments where performance stops, where you're not proving anything to anybody. You're just thinking, playing chess. I've played chess with melanated people in prison. And I want to tell you what I saw. Strategic, patient, multi-layered evaluation happening in real time. The ability to hold multiple futures simultaneously and navigate between them. Not just reacting, anticipating, reading people, reading environments, reading the board 3 moves ahead. That's not average. Almost none of them even knew they had it. They thought it was normal. They would dismiss it, shrug it off, because they'd been handed a story about themselves from birth that had nothing to do with what I was actually watching. They were judging themselves by the color of their skin instead of the content of their character and capability. And the tragedy is, the truth was always right there. From the moment a melanated child is born, in this country, they enter a world that has already decided what they are. And the parents, who love their children completely, have to build a counter narrative inside the home just to survive the outside narrative. You are somebody. You are special. You are just as good as anybody else. And that message comes from pure love. But think about what it also communicates underneath. It communicates that the outside world doesn't think so. It communicates that this needs to be said. It communicates that there's a battle happening before the child is old enough to understand what a battle is. So the child grows up armored, ready to prove something, and every room they walk into with new people, they're running a calculation that other people don't have to run. Not, will these people like me, but will these people see me as one of the good ones? Will I have to prove that I'm not what they've been told I am? That's not a chip on a shoulder. That's an exhausting, invisible, daily performance that was engineered into existence deliberately. Look at what was actually constructed. Take entire communities, strip the generational wealth through systematic policy, redlining, exclusion from the GI Bill, destruction of prosperous melanated communities like Tulsa. Create concentrated poverty by design. Put millions of people into environments where opportunity is structurally absent. Then introduce crack cocaine in the 1980s. And this isn't conspiracy. The CIA's own investigations confirm the connections. Flood those communities with an addictive substance that creates its own economy. Now, the most visible leaders in the community aren't businessmen or educators. They're the people the crack economy elevated. The ones with nice cars, nice clothes, giving out turkeys on Thanksgiving. The ones who actually show up when the system doesn't. A 9-year-old in that environment isn't making a moral choice. They're making a rational observation about what works and what doesn't in a world that they can actually see. And then, right on schedule, the music arrives. Rap music in its original form was something extraordinary. Poets, people documenting reality with a precision and a rhythm that is genuinely one of the most sophisticated art forms humans have ever produced. And then the industry got a hold of it. The content got shaped. The images got selected. What got promoted and what got buried followed a very clear pattern. Violence, materialism, disposability, the destruction of the family structure through the glorification of exactly the behaviors that destroy family structures. Not because melanated people created those things, because the industry selected those things, called it authentic, and buried everything else. And it worked on everyone simultaneously. It wasn't just music. It was a complete identity delivery system. The music told you what to value. The clothing told you what to wear. The language told you how to speak. The videos showed you what success looked like. And success looked like one thing: criminality with material reward. For melanated youth already living inside engineered poverty, it wasn't even a fully free choice. When the most visible, successful people in your immediate environment came up through the drug economy, the ones with the cars, the clothes, the money, the power, the respect, the community presence, and the music playing everywhere is confirming that path. You're not choosing a lifestyle. You're being inducted into a lifestyle that was architected before you were born. For white suburban kids, it became the ultimate rebellion costume. Put on the clothes, learn the language, adopt the aesthetic. Suddenly, you had something your safe, comfortable environment couldn't manufacture. Edge, authenticity, membership in something that felt real. But both groups were buying the same thing: a brand, packaged and distributed by an industry that decided with extraordinary precision which artists got promoted and which ones got buried. The ones rapping about consciousness, history, community, knowledge, those are dead ends. The ones rapping about drugs, guns, and money, major label deals, radio saturation, cultural dominance. Organic cultures don't get shaped that precisely. That's not a scene, that's a product. And then it came full circle. Now, you weren't cool unless you claimed a criminal identity. Whether you were melanated in Compton or white in Connecticut, the brand had captured everyone. And the brand said your value is measured by your proximity to criminality. So then white kids adopted the aesthetic. The media called it wanting to be black. Think about what that framing does. It didn't say these kids wanted to be poets or strategists or just had a style or community builders. It said they wanted to be criminals. But that's what blackness had been reduced to in the public narrative. So in one move, they told melanated people criminality was their identity. Told white people imitating that identity was transgressive rebellion. Then used white adoption of it to reinforce that the identity itself was criminal. Melanated people got associated with crime in the public narrative. White people who adopted the culture got associated with it too. Law enforcement got a cultural uniform to profile. The prison industry got a pipeline. And the people who designed the entire system watched two populations police each other's authenticity while the architecture that built all of it stayed completely invisible. They didn't just sell you music, they sold you an identity. And then they used that identity against you. And this is the part that requires the most honesty, They show you Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks. Here are your heroes. Here are the people that fought for you. For those are real people with real courage and real sacrifice so you could have your freedom. But think about the psychological message underneath the official story. If you need heroes who fought for your right to exist equally, what does that say about your position? It says your equality was in question. It says it had to be argued for. It says there were people who needed to be convinced that you were human. And now every melanated child grows up knowing they descend from people whose humanity was debated. That's not history. That's a weapon delivered into a classroom, endorsed by the state. They took everything away from you. They suppressed you down. They taught you that you came from chains. Then they told you these people who they promoted onto the world stage were fighting for you, for your equality. What I actually believe, melanin isn't just a pigment. The ancient civilizations that built the structures we still can't fully explain, that encoded electromagnetic knowledge in their architecture, that understood the cosmos in ways modern science is only beginning to rediscover, those civilizations were melanated. The Moors who governed an advanced European civilization before 1492. The Egyptians who built geometry into stone with precision we still can't fully replicate. The ancient cultures who tracked celestial cycles across generations with telescopes or without telescopes, because we don't know if they had telescopes or not, because history was destroyed. The knowledge that got buried at 1492, the alchemical tradition, the electromagnetic understanding, the geometric and architectural mastery, that knowledge came predominantly from melanated civilizations. And then that knowledge got taken, the civilization got dismantled, the history got rewritten, and the descendants of those civilizations got handed a story that started with chains. They didn't call melanated people black because it was descriptive. They called them black because they needed to erase what came before. You can't steal somebody's heritage if they know they have one. Now, this pattern is not unique to melanated people. Think about gay people. I don't care who you sleep with. That's genuinely none of my business and none of anybody else's business. But watch what happens in the culture. Gay people don't come out of the closet once. They come out of the closet every single time they walk into a new environment, every new job, every new social group, every new relationship. There's a moment, a calculation, where they decide whether to announce something that should be entirely private. And why do they feel they have to announce it? Because the culture made their sexuality their identity. It took something personal, who you love, and turned it into a category, a team, something that requires declaration and defense, something that defines you before anything else about you gets considered. That's not liberation. That's a different kind of cage with a rainbow painted on it. The same system that made melanated people perform their goodness to show new people that they weren't like the narrative paints them made gay people perform their identity. Different mechanism, same author, same purpose, make you spend your life managing a narrative about yourself instead of discovering who you actually are. Here's the line across all of it. They told melanated people their story starts with slavery and chains. They told gay people their identity is their sexuality. They told everyone their planet is an insignificant rock in a meaningless universe that began by accident and ends in nothing. In every case, the goal is identical. Sever you from your actual identity. Replace it with a managed one. Make you spend your entire life performing that managed identity for the approval of the system that created it. Because everybody fell for it. The melanated person proving they're one of the good ones. You are so much more than that performance. The gay person announcing their sexuality in every room. You're so much more than who you sleep with. Who cares? Keep it to yourself. The globe defender arguing with strangers on the internet. You are living on something so much more extraordinary than a random rock in an infinite vacuum in outer space that came from nothing. You are not evolved from a monkey. They didn't tell you what shape the earth is. They told you what shape you are. And you've been defending both ever since. I walk around every day knowing what I know. Looking at people, all people, going through the motions of identities that were handed to them by the same system that handed them a cosmology designed to make them feel small and insignificant. And I'm not angry at the people. I'm angry at the architecture. Because I've sat across the chessboard from some of the most brilliant strategic minds I've ever encountered. And their confidence had been so thoroughly dismantled by the narrative that they inherited that they didn't even know what I was watching. That's the crime. Not the poverty, not the music, not even the history. The crime is that they took people with something genuinely extraordinary and made them spend their entire lives proving that they were ordinary. Seek and ye shall find, but first you have to believe that you're worth finding.